Ladies and gentlemen, Joe Biden's win in South Carolina, because he's going to win South Carolina. Joe Biden is almost certainly going to win South Carolina. Okay, whatever happens, Hillary Clinton will definitely be the nominee in 2020, the Democratic primary. The nomination is Hillary Clinton. Hillary Clinton's going to be the nominee. She's running through Biden, Klobuchar, Warren, Bloomberg, and Mayor Pete. You can just call them all, each and every one of them, Madam Secretary. There's 2 rounds of the convention. There are superdelegates, 775 of them. Okay, 90% of which are party bosses. Debbie Wasserman Schultz, President Obama, Bill Clinton, Adam Schiff. These are all superdelegates. You can look it up. Debbie Wasserman Schultz is a superdelegate. Okay? They're not going to allow Bernie Sanders to win because it is not a fair primary. The rules are set in place to ensure that Bernie doesn't run away with it. That's why they have the 50% threshold. If you don't get 50%, the whole thing's nonsense anyway. They say, well, it's not rigged. These are the rules. Yeah, the rules were made so Bernie couldn't win. And it doesn't matter. What do I care? I'm voting for President Trump. Record low unemployment. Record low Black and Latino unemployment. 5 million people lifted out of poverty. I'm wondering, I don't have a Twitter account and I don't have a Facebook account. But I'm wondering why the people on social media ignore the fact that 5 million people have been lifted out of poverty. I have the links from USA Today and the census below. 5 million people lifted out of poverty. So, in 3 years, the best 3-year span in alleviating poverty of any time within the 16-year period between Bush and President Obama. Then you have 6 million jobs created. In 3 years, 8.9 million in 8 years under President Obama. So we can go on forever. Household median income up, record low Black and Latino unemployment. About a month ago, 2 months ago, the unemployment rate for Hispanic and Latino men was below the national average. Trump is a great president. We can go on forever. But here, the issue here is they're not going to let Bernie Sanders win. Okay? Bernie Sanders, number one, isn't even I used to think that Bernie was the epitome of liberal ideology or the Democratic Party's value system. He's not actually. President Trump is more the epitome or the gold standard or the objective of the Republican Party. A great economy. And a true conservative wants to withdraw Americans from interventions. Reagan's foreign policy was less hawkish and militant than President Obama's. Just ask the people of Libya. And ask the people of a whole bunch of other countries that I can't even talk about on YouTube. But Trump wants to withdraw Americans from regions of conflict, from never-ending counterinsurgency conflicts. Okay, Democrats do not. Bernie Sanders is not even. When they say he's not a Democrat, when I was the biggest Bernie Sanders booster on the internet, according to the Huffington Post, and the unofficial scribe of Sanders' most hardcore voters, according to the Washington Post, and all my articles in The Hill, the Huffington Post, Salon, the Cleveland Plain Dealer, all went through editors. Okay, all the editors gave a stamp of approval for my writing. That's very important going forward. But I never liked Bernie Sanders because, he was a socialist or a democratic socialist. Or I liked him because I said, well, there's 2 choices. I was a lifelong Democrat, and I was stuck in that cult, unfortunately, the Democratic Party. And I said, one is a person who pushed for Bush, Cheney, and Rumsfeld's endless, horrible, failed interventions predicated upon failed intelligence. and then she pushed for the intervention in Libya. It never had a foreign policy decision that ever worked out. We can go on forever. Okay, I drew a clear line of distinction between Bernie Sanders and Madam Secretary Clinton, who will be the nominee. Nobody wanted that at that point because the groupthink was, well, Clinton's the front runner. She was never the front runner. Bernie Sanders was. Bernie Sanders in 2016 had crossover appeal. He was the Tulsi Gabbard of 2020, although at that point they hadn't, they didn't, fabricate the whole Russia myth hoax that they truly believe. That Russia hacked the DNC to inform the country that Bernie Sanders was cheated, forcing Debbie Wasserman Schultz to resign. And Clinton won the popular vote, but she lost swing states because of Facebook ads. And Russia wants Tulsi Gabbard and Jill Stein and Trump, and Russia's and Putin's even helping Bernie Sanders. But what about the 20% of U.S. uranium capacity that President Obama didn't veto? Facebook ads are far more important than uranium mines located in the U.S. that Putin owns. Yeah, Democrats, you're talking about people who they believe their own propaganda, which is why reality is going to be very interesting for them when Trump wins again. In 2017, I wrote, Clinton 2020 is a reality. Get ready for 8 years of Trump. But let me get back to Biden and Bernie Sanders. Look, Biden is there just as a placeholder for Madam Secretary. All of these people are establishment picks that have no chance of winning. They're there because Clinton simply doesn't want to run on the campaign trail. She's done it twice. She's lost twice. She will lose again. She doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. She'll run again in 2024. She could actually win in 2024, heaven forbid, but then she could possibly. 2020, President Trump has. The economy is great. The meltdown, the daily, hourly meltdown from media is irrelevant. Nobody cares. But what you have is South Carolina, and then you have Super Tuesday. South Carolina, when Biden wins, in addition to not only a Bernie Sanders loss, but a Biden victory, combined with the inevitable media assault on Bernie Sanders. Pick whatever fabricated narrative, lie, propaganda spin you want. Bernie dossier, Bernie enjoys bodily fluids, they did it against Trump, nobody said anything on the left, they'll do it against Bernie Sanders. Bernie bros, they're going after Bernie supporters. Bernie's a communist. They're saying that. Okay. What else? They'll invent, he worked with Russia. We have to investigate. Well, they did it with Trump. They could do it with Bernie. There's a million different ways Democrats have to completely derail and undermine Bernie Sanders. Okay. Bernie Sanders in a fair primary where Democrats actually wanted to, I guess, exemplify or further their alleged value system, Bernie Sanders would win. Okay? He believes, he really, look, he engaged in a bunch of despicable, cowardly propaganda tactics, just furthering the notion that Trump worked with Russia. They're going to use that against him. Deep inside, I think he is a good human being. He wants to help people, but people are being helped with President Trump's economy. 61% of Americans, according to Gallup, are happy with their lives and their personal finances under Trump in 2020 than in 2016 under President Obama, Democrat. Now, you look at Medicare for All, they haven't passed it in the House. The House is controlled by Democrats. Democrats don't want Medicare for All. Green New Deal, abolish ICE, banning fracking, student loan debt. Where's the major legislation that's passed the House? Bernie's running on a platform Democrats don't want. The notion, I used to think that Bernie Sanders could change things from within. That will never happen because they view him to be an outsider. Eventually, I learned after 2016, Bernie is like like somebody that's invaded the Democratic Party. The Democratic Party is not a progressive party. So there are progressives who vote Democrat. And I learned this eventually. But the Democrats are not progressive. The Democratic Party is not fueled by progressives. The progressives are the loudest, most passionate, most idealistic voters who will get crushed and manipulated and stomped on and led by the wonderful pundits who get $20 million in venture capital or whatever, and they will then be funneled by people like Bernie Sanders and even certain people like Elizabeth Warren back into the Democratic Party to vote for Hillary Clinton. It's a racket. It's a money-making graft machine. It's a political machine. Okay, how did Clinton get so wealthy? How did they never had a business in their life, and the only time they ever tried to whitewater was like a horrendous business deal. Anytime they tried to legitimately start some kind of business of their own, it was an absolute failure, filled with controversy and legal issues. They sell themselves. Okay, there's a word for that, but that selling yourself in that way is a lot more pure and innocent than what the Clintons do. They sell access. They sell promises. They sell their political. They sell politics. They sell the hopes and dreams of people who want a better future for the Democratic Party. Okay, so it's graft. You can look at Boss Tweed. Look up Boss Tweed. Tammany Hall. See what happened to him. Okay. These people gain a great deal of money. Look, Clinton loses again in 2020. She writes another book. I'm a gutsy woman. I don't care if I lost, I tried. So what? You run for president 3 times and try. Okay? Now, you can say, oh my God, what? She would lose again? What happened again? Da, da, da. So what? When people were trying to mock me and denigrate me and with my writing or whatever and my viewpoints, I didn't care. I don't care what people think. The Democrats run on mockery and denigration, denigrating, they try to denigrate people, insults, but then nobody cares. Republicans too, to an extent, but who cares if Clinton loses again? They're going to make a lot of money. Well, why is Bernie the Biden-Bernie thing is just a small obstacle. This is part of the charade. Hillary Clinton's going to become nominee. Okay. Trump knows this. That's why he's saying vote for Bernie. The Republicans should vote for Bernie in South Carolina. Bernie Sanders is having his moment now. They really think that it's fair. It's not fair. It's not a meritocracy. Democrats do not care about losing to Trump if the prospect is Bernie winning. They don't want Medicare for all. You know how difficult Medicare for all would be? They couldn't even get the ACA through without a million different glitches and problems and obstacles. That's not all 300 plus million Americans. And it doesn't do away with private insurance. To the contrary. Okay, then you have what happened to abolishing ICE? I mean, this isn't even the Democratic Party. I loved Bernie Sanders, loved past tense at one point, because he talked about breaking up too big to fail banks, which I think Trump should do too. Alan Greenspan talked about that. He talked about withdrawing Americans, and when Trump did that, they said, it has to be an orderly withdrawal. Putin this, Putin that. Okay. I thought Bernie Sanders would be the type of person to clean up, corrupt intelligence agencies. That's what Trump is doing. That's what Trump is doing with Durham, and now you have John Radcliffe. And what do you think is going to take place with all the people who conspired against Trump? Not going to be good for them. So, when Biden wins South Carolina, whether he does or doesn't, it's really irrelevant. I'm doing this segment like many hours before the final results, but Biden is almost certainly going to win. Hillary Clinton is definitely, let's say Bernie miraculously wins South Carolina. Doesn't matter. Hillary Clinton is definitely going to become nominee. Because if I can see an opening, if I can see a pathway, if I can see the possibility of Clinton becoming nominee, not just a possibility, it's a certainty, but if I can see that, if I can see Clinton navigating towards a victory, what do you think Clinton thinks? These people are obsessive. People like Trump, Clinton, and to a far lesser extent me, they can see things and they obsess over them. And Clinton runs. Okay, Madam Secretary has unbridled ambition not seen since Attila the Hun. You're talking about you can put all the tech CEOs, Olympic athletes, Guinness Book of World Record holders in a cauldron, and it wouldn't be 1/1,000,000th the unbridled ambition for political power and influence that Hillary Clinton possesses. So I mean, it's like the notion that she wouldn't run is predicated upon the belief that you don't think that you're dealing with a megalomaniac, but you are. So that's the issue. Is not that people are like, oh, you're obsessed, man. It's not really. Actually, not me. It's you. If you don't think that Clinton's going to be a nominee, actually, you are underestimating the drive and the passion for political influence that Madam Secretary has. Not me. I'm actually gauging the desire to be president pretty well. Okay, Clinton knows there's nobody there that can defeat Trump. Okay, Bernie would lose in a landslide in 2020. Not so in 2016. Here's why. Several people have said, hey, H.A., how could, she can't win in 2016. Bernie wouldn't have won in 2016. Well, no, he would have. If the primary was fair and if Democrats rallied around Bernie Sanders and gave everything they had, because Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin had not voted for a Republican since the 80s. They've only 70,000 votes. So theoretically, he could have won because there was passion, there was crossover appeal, and there were enough conservatives at that point because Bernie Sanders focused a lot on foreign policy, trade with China, those things, and his message was inclusive. It wasn't just 3 years of fomenting and fabricating and regurgitating the same Russia hoax against Trump and trying to pretend that he's something he's not. So, he was Tulsi Gabbard in 2016. That's why there was crossover appeal. That's why he could have won in 2016. There's zero crossover appeal now. Now he's like, Mr. Communist. And it plays well to the same pundits who got $20 million in venture capital. It doesn't play well to the rest of the... Bernie and Trump could fill stadiums. Only Trump has people outside the stadiums. Like a lot of people that'll vote for him. You have David Brooks and you have other people at New York Times and Washington. They'll never... There are Democrats, hardcore Democrats, who have derangement issues with Trump who won't even vote for Bernie. They'd rather have Trump. All of this was a temper tantrum. Like 3 years of a temper tantrum for Trump, but if the prospect's Bernie Sanders, well, I mean, that's a communist, so we won't go there. And that's the Democratic mentality. And I say this, if you're watching this right now, you're a progressive, you're watching this, you don't even like me, you think I'm like, this, nuts or whatever. You are being foolish if you think that Democrats would rather have Bernie than Trump. That is not the case. They would much rather lose with Clinton than win with Bernie. It's far more lucrative, and Bernie Sanders is to them is not even a Democrat. Now, that used to annoy me before I became a Trump supporter. When I was a Bernie supporter, I said, well, wait a second. Don't you want to break up too big to fail banks? Don't you want to bring home Americans? No, they don't. They don't care. Democrats don't care about that stuff. They don't care. If the Democratic Party is a party of marginally more liberal than Republicans on big issues, marginally more liberal. Not drastically more liberal, and certainly not progressive. Certainly not. That plays on social media. So, and you look at American society, we've done away with, a great many Americans have done away with religion or spirituality or theology, and social media is their divine entity. So that's why you hear all this, you see all this, like, projection and preaching and moralizing and condemnation on social media. Because that's so that they get retweeted if they're like, oh yeah, well, Bernie did this, and you know what? Trump and the Democrats did this. Retweet. You're so right. Yeah. So that's like, instead of some kind of, now I'm just getting into like, for people who are on the left, their religion is social media and preaching and condemnation of their political adversaries. That's their religion. So you see this cult type of mentality on the far left, especially progressives. And that's why when Bernie is cheated and will become cheated, and when Bernie then says, hey, vote for Clinton, the hope will be, one day, we were cheated again, but one day we will, we'll rise up from the and the DNC will have to, do our bidding. Yeah, it's never gonna happen, because that's not what the Democratic Party is. Democratic Party is a political machine where there's legalized graft. It's the whole other story. Anyway, look. Give me your thoughts below. Biden wins South Carolina. It's the beginning of the end for Bernie Sanders. I don't care what he does on Super Tuesday. Because suddenly, not only is he not inevitable, suddenly he can't win South Carolina. Then Democrats, intelligence chiefs, media put the full court press in. And then it's, oh my God, Bernie's been knocked out. There's no more Biden. Klobuchar, Mayor Pete, Bloomberg. Well, who's left? Oh my God. Could it be like a phoenix rising from the ashes? Oh my God. Who could have ever imagined this? Who could have ever predicted this in 2017? Read my article below. Clinton 2020 is a reality. Get ready for 8 years of Trump. Thank God. South Carolina is very likely the beginning of the end for Bernie Sanders. It doesn't matter if he gets more delegates. Like, he can do remarkably well on Super Tuesday. It's not relevant. It doesn't matter. If he doesn't get over 50%, he won't. He might get 49.8% of the vote. Let's say he sweeps the popular vote. He sweeps the popular vote. Every state, they don't care, because they want over 50% of delegates, and they'll make sure. He's at like 49.9, and they'll make sure that he gets to like 48%. And then the first round is like, no. And then the second round's like, superdelegates Clinton nomination. And that's with like months of negative stories on Bernie. But then at a certain point, don't complain that you were cheated, even though you were, because you were cheated because the rules barred and prevented you from winning, but you never forced them to alter the rules drastically enough to make sure you could win, because you didn't want to be a Russian operative, tiki torch nationalist, horrible monster. All the lies and deception that you used against Trump and Trump supporters will come back to you. Not good being part of the cult on the left. Give me your thoughts below. If you want to support my voice long term, my Patreon is below in the pinned comment. Your support is greatly, greatly appreciated. People, tell your friends that I have been telling you for 3 years that Hillary Clinton's going to be nominee. I'm the only person on YouTube. I am the only person on YouTube who's been telling you for 3 years that Hillary Clinton's going to be the nominee. Give me your thoughts. Thank you so very, very much. Check out H.A. Goodman's other channel this second.